sometimes you find out there's a game that's been lost that should never be found. Wait a second. What's this? I don't remember getting this. Guess that means this video is sponsored by Displate. Very nice high quality metal posters that stick right to your walls with magnets. Displate has over 2 million designs to choose from, including licensed prints from your favorite games, movies, and TV shows, or original designs from thousands of artists. And they're super easy to put up. Just put the protective leaf on your wall, stick the magnet on, and hang your Displate. And now some Displates are even enhanced with Textra, which adds 3D effects and gloss, which you can see here on this print of Lucy, which makes her look even more dope. Use code Oddheader with the link down below to get 26% off on up to 2 Displates or 30% off for 3 or more. Not applicable for limited edition, Lumino, or Textra. That's code Oddheader with the link down below. Bob's Game. Thanks to Finn for submitting this mystery through Oddheader.com. Bob's Game is an RPG-style adventure as far as we know, as the game has gone through many major changes throughout the years. The game first appeared on the internet in 2008 when indie developer Robert Poloni released a YouTube video showing off the demo gameplay. The video quickly got 100,000 views, which caught the attention of game journalists. Bob told interviewers he began developing the game in 2003. He also spent the last 2 years completely isolated to work on the game. In his words, creating assets and generally going bonkers. Bob said the game was nearly complete and he just needed a software development kit from Nintendo to release it on the DS. However, Nintendo never responded to his application. Things quickly went bonkers from there, as at the end of 2008, Bob announced he was protesting by locking himself in a dark room for 100 days, or until Nintendo responded with the dev kit. He taped a webcam to his ceiling for a live stream of the protests on his website, which for the most part just showed him sitting at his computer. At one point, Bob gave viewers contact information for Nintendo executives and urged them to demand the dev kit. He then wrote unhinged blog posts claiming Nintendo was jealous of him, that he was the greatest game developer to ever live, and that they should send the dev kit or he will get revenge. After about 1 month, he gave up on the protest, trashing his room and faking his death on the live stream. Bob then showed up at the Nintendo store in New York with friends and hired models to put up flyers for Bob's Game, as well as put homebrew copies of the game on the shelves and promotional cards on the floor, which promptly got them kicked out. He then finally got a reply from Nintendo saying his application for the dev kit was rejected. In response, he uploaded new gameplay footage to YouTube that painted Nintendo as an evil corporation determined to try to stop small indie developers, while a main character based on him tries to expose them. The next month, he released an hour-long Bob's Game demo on his website, which could only be played with a DS emulator. The game was about exploring a neighborhood that Bob moved to, but unfortunately, most players found it too challenging to get through. He then announced Bob's Game would be released on his own handheld console, which never happened. The strange campaign for Bob's Game continued until 2014, when he launched a Kickstarter to fund $10,000 for what he called a hack van, which he planned to equip with solar panels and live in while completing the game. While he did meet his funding goal, he didn't release Bob's Game by the promised date and refunded his backers. Then in 2016, Bob's Game finally appeared on Steam and itch.io. However, it looked very different from the RPG he'd been teasing since 2008, and instead it was just a Tetris-like minigame the Bob's Game protagonist had been trying to sell to Nintendo in the game's lore. This version of Bob's Game existed until 2021, when the name was briefly changed to OK before being taken down, which appeared to just have this image. Okay. That same year, he uploaded the Bob's Game files to GitHub, giving anyone permission to do whatever they want with them. The developer website now seems to host religious text and an apology of sorts, which appears to be the end of Bob's Game, at least for now, as no one has been able to get a playable version of the game to run from the GitHub files. While the Discord server Bob's Revival has been trying to create a working build of the game in their free time, so far the project isn't complete, and no one has managed to play the game in its entirety. Regardless whether the full game ever sees the light of day, Bob's Game will probably remain most well known for its insane marketing campaign and harassing Nintendo, which evidently is something that even Bob himself would probably like to move on from. Mixed TV presents Eminem. Before he appeared in Fortnite or the Shady Wars mobile game, the rapper Eminem was apparently supposed to have his own game on PlayStation and PC. Mix TV Presents Eminem was announced in 2003 and would have been a puzzle game made from his music videos. Players would have had to put together the puzzles before the songs ended and could compete or play co-op with friends. While the developer Conspiracy Entertainment evidently finished the game and submitted it to the ESRB, it never got released as Eminem's team backed out of the deal and then got sued by the developer. The game is now considered lost media, as no demos or pre-release materials have ever been found, though it appears not many are searching for it, not even Eminem fans, as the game appears to be shovelware based on the description, though Eminem didn't miss his chance to appear in a PlayStation 2 game, as Eminem later appeared as a detective in 50 Cent Bulletproof, along with fellow rappers 50 Cent and Dr. Dre. That third-person shooter came out in 2005, which features 50 Cent on a mission for revenge against a hitman who tried to kill him. 50 Cent Bulletproof is also notoriously received as being completely awful, and both the running and aiming controls were horrendous. And considering that was an actual game compared to the description of Mix TV Presents Eminem, it's not hard to see why Eminem doesn't want this one to see the light of day. Baby Shaker. Thanks to Reverie for submitting this discovery on the Oddheader Discord. Baby Shaker was a mobile game that somehow made it onto the App Store in 2009. The calling it a game is generous. For those who wanted to waste the 99 cents the app costs, it showed an illustration of a baby with X's that appeared on the drawing the more the user shook their phone. Now I want to stress that this should never be done, as in real life this causes serious brain damage and even death in infants. The game caused plenty of controversy as soon as it became available in the App Store, with child safety groups demanding that Apple remove it. Apple apologized and removed the game within 2 days, and developer Cyclosoft updated their website to say the Baby Shaker phone app was a bad idea. I think that's something we can all agree on. Another thing I think we can all agree on, it's probably better if this lost game stays lost. Hotel 626. Thanks to Ira Fields for submitting this discovery through oddheader.com. Hotel 626 was an online flash game released in 2008, which could only be played from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Beginning the game, players were asked to turn on their webcam and mic and fill out their personal info, which already seemed pretty creepy. They were then dropped into a haunted hotel with no explanation, and they had to make their way past a series of nightmarish sequences, including this possessed woman they had to kill with a camera flash, a demon baby they had to sing a lullaby through the mic, then walk away carefully so it wouldn't wake up, a locked room with a man in a straitjacket and creepy pictures on the wall, and a madman's lair filled with photos they had to click through in order to escape, one of which would be a photo the game took of the player if they had their webcam on. And if finding yourself inside this horror game wasn't scary enough, players could also get a real-life call on their phone, which gave them directions to get out of the hotel and end the game. And apparently it didn't end there, as they would also get a phone call in the middle of the night saying they never escaped the hotel. However, what was perhaps the most creepy thing about Hotel 626 was that it was just a Doritos advertisement. That's right, they called and woke up players in the middle of the night just to sell some f***ing chips. The game was a Halloween-themed promotion for 2 retired Doritos flavors they were bringing back, Black Pepper Jack and Smokin' Cheddar Barbecue. Doritos went further off the rails when they released Asylum 626 a year later. The game began by asking players to log in through Facebook or Twitter, and then dropped players into a creepy asylum. After players made their way through the asylum, they ended up in a locked room with TV monitors showing the names of their Facebook friends next to 2 patients tied up and gagged, and players had to decide which one of their friends would be tortured and killed, and which one would be spared. Thankfully, for those who don't want to torture their friends over chips, both of the games went offline around 2011, as Doritos was seemingly done advertising the new chip flavors. Since Doritos hosted the games online, there is no known way for anyone to play them again, and the Hotel 626 files on the Internet Archive don't appear to contain the full game. So unless someone out there is somehow able to get the games running, Hotel 626 and Asylum 626 are gone for good. Which may be a good thing, because I'm not sure anyone wants to go through all those nightmares or torture their friends again, just for an ad for chips. Dweebers. With a name like Dweebers, this already sounds like a game that should probably stay lost, but beyond its name, not much is known about the game. The box art shows a kid being attacked by whatever these are. According to game catalogs for upcoming titles, Dweebers was supposed to be a Game Boy game released around 1989 or 1990 from Japanese game publisher Vic Tokai. And if you've never heard of Vic Tokai before, you're not alone, as they released a few dozen games for the NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, N64, PlayStation, and Sega consoles during the late 80s and 90s, though none of them appear to have been very popular. Vic Tokai's games were released in Japan, with a localization team in California that made North American versions. Strangely, Dweebers is also mentioned in a parent's guide from 1990 about home consoles and video games that were available at the time. The guide's description of Dweebers says, "So what if you've got a styrofoam face? Hey, it's a dweeb world out there." The description goes on to say the hero of the game has a steam iron face, grasshopper legs, and little booties that look like Volkswagens, and they would fight fish larva enemies. You know, that sort of game. If I had to guess, the game's description is probably full of things that got lost in translation, though what styrofoam face or little booties that look like Volkswagens were originally supposed to mean is anyone's guess. Some lost media hunters believe the Japanese edition of Dweebers was possibly going to be called Gathers, based on some finds in some old gaming catalogs. Gathers was listed as a puzzle game, with screenshots showing a maze where players would have dodged enemies. Like Dweebers, the game was seemingly cancelled, with no evidence of it ever being released. At this point, chances look quite low we'll ever get a chance to play either title, whatever the hell they were supposed to be. Mean Girls. Thanks to Boy for spinning this mystery on the Oddheader Discord. The cult classic starring Lindsay Lohan was apparently supposed to have a Nintendo DS tie-in, though the biggest mystery is whether the game was actually released, as no one seems to know. The tie-in game was first announced in 2008, the same time as a Clueless game that was also in the works. Mean Girls was supposed to be released in Europe the following year and the US in 2010. However, considering no one has come forward with a physical copy to this date, it's believed that Mean Girls was cancelled at the last minute. However, it appears not everyone got the memo, as there are a few online listings for a used copy of the Mean Girls game, which all listed as sold out or unavailable. One Best Buy listing has a review saying the game is decent for the $8 they paid, though they weren't expecting much from a movie tie-in. It's a mystery how the reviewer even got a copy of the game. In fact, on an archived version of the developer's website, a frequently asked question asks, "Is the game Mean Girls available for purchase?" with the response saying, according to our own retail teams, Mean Girls was never published for the Nintendo DS. But that didn't stop Mean Girls fans from trying to find it, digging up screenshots from an obscure Italian website. Raymona on YouTube searched for both the Mean Girls and Clueless games in her Tales of the Lost documentary series. While she found the Clueless game and dumped the ROM on the Internet Archive, she was unable to find Mean Girls. A few developers who worked on Mean Girls saw the series and contacted her, and it turns out even they don't know if the game got published, as the license got passed to a couple of other studios after they worked on it. One of the developers found a ROM of the game and sent it anonymously to Raymona in 2021. Raymona shared a gameplay video finally revealing what Mean Girls DS looked like 13 years after it was announced, and found it was pretty much what you'd expect. Notably absent is Lindsay Lohan, as the player makes their way around the school collecting gossip for their burn book, mixed with a bunch of unexciting mini-games. That is, if you can even get the game running, as Raymona found it was so full of bugs she couldn't even get past the first minigame, as it got stuck on an infinite loop. However, Raymona got help from programmer Tommy Shadow to patch the many problems with the game and got it into a more playable condition. Ray managed to get 97% completion of the game, though bad news for anyone who wanted to get 100% completion, as the developer who shared the ROM with Ray asked her not to publicly release it, so the game's still lost to anyone who isn't her. Well, maybe one day an actual physical copy will turn up that's playable all the way to the end, as I kind of doubt a lot of people are lining up to play a buggy, unplayable ROM, or Mean Girls DS at all, for that matter. Dog Eat Dog. Dog Eat Dog was supposed to be an adventure game for PC, which began development in 1992. The game's creator was Darlene Waddington, who wanted to portray office work culture as a total farce. Dog Eat Dog would have used comic book style art to emphasize the satirical nature of the game, as the player character starts work at Big Black Box Industries, a huge corporation on the verge of bankruptcy. The player could either succeed at reviving the corporation or fail miserably, as they dealt with immature colleagues, incompetent managers, and off his scandals. The game was meant to be replayable, with your path of the company changing based on your dialogue choices and how they influenced your co-workers. Dog Eat Dog also included the ability to flirt with co-workers of any gender, which was not only considered spicy for 1992, but also would have been quite the change-up for the game's original publisher, Disney. As the game's creator, Darlene Waddington convinced Disney to start publishing games for adult audiences under the name Buena Vista Software. Waddington also recruited 2 other women to write the narrative with her, as Dog Eat Dog was going to be quite a large game with hundreds of dialogue options and advanced neural network that affected what the NPCs thought of the player and how the events panned out. However, due to some unrelated changes at Disney, Dog Eat Dog was sold to Trilobyte Games in 1994. Trilobyte was known for games that used full motion video, such as The Seventh Guest, and decided that Dog Eat Dog would be better as an FMV game. The decision was disastrous according to Waddington, though you can see that for yourself from the trailer.
Mommy Venus doesn't like to wait! I'm not your goddamn secretary!
Maybe this is a bad time.
The switch from a comic book to FMV style makes Dog Eat Dog seem like a bad sitcom, rather than the smart satire it was intended to be. The game was also way too large for FMV, which was expensive to produce at the time and would have required a lot of filming for every one of the game's scenarios. After spending $300,000 on filming, Trilobyte canceled the project to save money, and that's where Dog Eat Dog ended, as the game never came out, and the early demo from the 1992 Consumer Electronics Show was also never publicly released. Besides that brief clip, the only surviving media we have from this game are a few screenshots and that disastrous FMV trailer. Neither version has ever seen the light of day, which is unfortunate, as I'd love to see the comic book style one eventually turn up. The FMV one? Maybe not so much. And thanks again to Displate for sponsoring this video. Displate helped me transform this space in my studio with these slick designs. And with millions of designs to choose from, like these that I picked out from some of my favorites like Crash Bandicoot Stray and Cyberpunk, there's endless options to transform your space, and they arrive surprisingly fast, within 4 to 5 business days, allowing you to quickly update your selection in case one of them doesn't really fit the vibe, which makes them super easy to put up without any drilling, as well as easily take them down, in case you need a change of scenery. Use code Oddheader with the link down below to get 26% off on up to 2 displays or 30% off for 3 or more. Not applicable for limited edition, Lumino, or Textra. That's code Oddheader with the link down below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you know of any other lost media games that you think should never be found, submit through oddheader.com, come join the Discord, or even send me a shout through Twitter or Reddit. Shout out to Aaron Johnston, Angel the Fox, Ash Photography, Bitwith27, Black EV50, Chad Biscuit, Eddie Talkspin the Bleach Primit, Flex, Jailbreak, Kieran Bolton, Nat XD, The Meatly, Phoenix157, Rackman22, Riley S, Robert Eisen, Select, Subrock, and Terrence Stock for their Patreon support. Stay tuned.